Welcome to the latest news from the Vatican. Leaders, prisoners, and the poor gathered to pay their respects. The funeral of Pope Francis was held with simple ceremonies according to his final wishes. Today is April 26, 2025. This update was last recorded at 3:09 p.m. Mecca time. Thousands gathered to bid farewell to Pope Francis in a funeral attended by dozens of world leaders, reflecting the late Pope's priorities and his lifelong fight for the poor, the marginalized, and migrants. The first head of the Catholic Church from South America passed away last Monday at the age of 88, less than a month after being discharged from a Rome hospital where he had been treated for severe pneumonia. Over the past 3 days, around 250,000 people visited St. Peter's Basilica, dating back to the 16th century, to pay their final respects to the Pope, whose body lay in an open casket, dressed in a red robe, wearing a white bishop's mitre, and holding a rosary. Pope Francis avoided much of the luxury and privilege traditionally associated with the papacy during his tenure, and this desire for greater simplicity was reflected in his funeral. He had rewritten the detailed funeral rituals previously followed. While the funeral of Pope John Paul II in 2005 lasted 3 hours, Saturday's only 90 minutes. Pope Francis also abandoned the centuries-old tradition of burying popes in 3 nested coffins made of cypress wood, lead, and oak. Instead, he was laid to rest in a single wooden coffin lined with zinc, which was tightly sealed on Friday evening in preparation for the ceremony. Thousands of mourners flocked to the Vatican from the early hours of the morning, with many arriving overnight to secure a front-row spot at the funeral. When the gates to the square opened around 6 o'clock in the morning, local time, many participants rushed in to find a seat, some waving their national flags or holding pictures of the Pope of the Poor. Italian and Vatican authorities implemented tight security measures around St. Peter's Basilica, deploying thousands of volunteers and law enforcement personnel, an anti-drone system, snipers on rooftops, and fighter jets on standby. Additional forces were called in, with anti-aircraft missiles and patrol boats securing the event in one of the largest security operations the country has ever seen. The funeral was held outdoors with the participation of 220 cardinals, 750 bishops, and more than 4,000 priests, and lasted about 90 minutes. More than 160 delegations, including heads of state, government leaders, and monarchs, attended the ceremony. Among the mourners was U.S. President Donald Trump, who had previously clashed with Pope Francis on multiple occasions over their starkly opposing stances on immigration. Also in attendance were former U.S. President Joe Biden, United Nations Secretary-General António Guterres, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Russian President Vladimir Putin, for whom the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant, sent his Minister of Culture, Olga Lyubimova, to represent him at the funeral. From South America, Javier Milei from Argentina, the Pope's birthplace, and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva were present. Also among the attendees were King Philippe of Belgium, and his wife King Felipe VI of Spain, and his wife King Abdullah II of Jordan, and his wife and Prince Albert II of Monaco and his wife. After the Mass presided over by Cardinal Giovanni Battista, the coffin was carried through the streets to the other side of the river toward the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore in central Rome. The late Pope chose this magnificent 5th-century church as his final resting place, which already houses the remains of 7 former popes. His small marble tomb near the altar bears a single word, Franciscus, his name in Latin. A group of the poor, prisoners, and migrants attended a special ceremony for the burial of the Pope, who throughout his 12-year papacy sided with the marginalized and confronted wealthy nations to advocate for migrants. The Vatican announced a 9-day mourning period for Pope Francis starting today, Saturday. During this period, solemn ceremonies will be held daily at St. Peter's Basilica until Sunday, May 4th. Following the funeral, attention now turns to the 135 cardinal electors under the age of 80, who will convene in closed sessions to elect a successor to Pope Francis. The start date for the conclave has not yet been announced, but Cardinal Jean-Claude Hollerich of Luxembourg, a Jesuit and close advisor to the late Pope, suggested it might begin on May 5th or 6th. The cardinals, who have already started gathering in Rome from around the world, will meet at the Sistine Chapel and will conduct 4 voting sessions per day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon.